Hi, it's Lucy here for Tally Scrapper, and I had a video all planned to show you all, and went back to edit it and found out that my head was in this set in the main frame of the screen for 90% of the time. So I'm going to have to kind of improvise, and I'm still going to show you my ideas for reusing packaging, and also had some comments on the flowers that I made on this layout. So I will be showing you what my tutorial is about is reusing the packaging that comes in your kits. I know that's kind of a popular theme right now, and reusing, this is from the Making Memories ephemera package, and I made a frame out of it that's dimensional to put my photo in to give a little bit extra lift. I also used some of the packaging and painted it and cut freeform leaves that are with layers of paint for texture and dimension. And then I also took some of the paper from the kit and I made some roses. These are quite similar to a lot you're seeing out right now. The only thing different is I do mist my flowers with like a spray mist, like shimmers or tattered angels, and I use that to soften up the paper so I can manipulate it. And I get some torn edges, which I think makes it look like an interesting, realistic flower. So let me get started showing you a few things on how to do these. The first thing I did was some of the packaging that's left over from the kit. One reason I like to make leaves from this packaging is because it's a little sturdier, it's heavier. It's not as heavy as chipboard, but it has some body to it. So my first step would just be to take just some gesso or white acrylic paint, and I'll just put a dab on there and grab a brush. And I would just put a thick coat on that's going to have some texture and dimension. And I would let that dry, and then I would put a couple of coats of acrylic paint over it, or whatever color you want your leaves to be. You could use browns or greens, just whatever theme you're wanting. And you can see I left the paint thick and gloppy because I want the paint to stick into the cracks and for it to have texture when I'm finished. So that's the first step of making the leaves, and I'm going to set this to the side. Okay, now I think I showed you how I'd use the Making Memories ephemera package to make the frame for my photo, and I don't have another one of those, so I'm going to use this other part of this packaging. This is from the Que Sera Brads. I like to just use, this is a ruler that actually I use in quilting. It's an acrylic ruler with an edge that you can use a rotary cutter or an X-Acto knife with. And I'm going to just kind of mark in, I think I want to measure in about a ½ inch onto each corner. Maybe a little bit more. 3/4 of an inch, I'm thinking. No, it's going to be a half to make sure I cut the brad pieces off. And be careful when you're using your X-Acto knife because, as you know, it's an open blade. One thing I do like about the X-Acto knife is I can be very precise as far as where I'm cutting to. So I'm going to start at my beginning point and cut directly down to the end. I'm going to try to be really careful not to go beyond that. Okay. Now, while this is cute, I always want some dimension on my pages, and I'm going to take my glue. I use fabric tack glue a lot. You could use your tape runner, whatever you have out. And I've cut some little strips of cardboard that are from the kit also, from the box, the packaging, from the box, the mailing box that is. And I've just cut little strips, and I'm just going to add this onto the back side of the frame, and that would be to hold this up a little bit from the photo. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and just assemble this. I have cut a piece of paper to go behind. This would represent your photo, but I'm going to use this possibly as a gift tag or something when I'm finished, so I'm just going to put the paper in there and put a word. And now I've got my little frame that's got the thin layer of cardboard, and I'm just going to put some glue on this. Then mount it onto paper. And then I've got a piece of cardboard cut that's going to fit across the back. Okay, I now have my piece of paper with the piece of the packaging, and I have painted it with gesso and then a layer of Shimmer's paint. You could use, like I said, you could use any type of paint. I just happen to have that on hand. Now I'm going to cut some leaves, and these are very free form. Basically just the leaf shape is all I'm trying to get. The pointed part can have a curve It's as simple as this. I'm going to just give it a little dimension by folding it. And usually whenever I glue it, I'll give it a little twist and give it a pinch so that when you go to glue it in, it's going to keep that dimension. And I think I'll put a little darker paint, or you could use ink, stickles on the edge. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I make the flowers that I've used. This is the finished card I ended up making with the little frame that I cut. And you can see that there is some dimension on here with the layering, and I've added a little title. These flowers are just simply made from scrapbook paper, and they're really quick and easy to do. I've got just some leftover paper from the kit, and I'm going to cut a circle. And my circles are not round, it's just a circular shape, and I even like the edges to be rough, to have kind of an organic look. Just think of a natural flower that you would find in nature. It would never have a perfectly round shape or anything like that. So the reason I like the edges to be so rough is because that gives me something to curl whenever I'm manipulating the paper. I think I mentioned that I liked the one way I get the dimension and texture of my flowers is I mist them first to get the paper fibers softened up, and then I also paint the edges to curl them. And I'm just going to cut a spiral into the center, and once again, the spiral is not a perfect spiral. And so I've got my piece here. I'm going to take some spritz. This is Shimmer Spritz. You could use any type of spray ink that you have on hand. One thing I like about shimmers is it's very easy to clean up. I'm going to let this soak in for just a minute. I have my little helper in here. My daughter Emma is in here helping me today in our studio. Emma, do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Emma loves these flowers, and she's watching me right now.
I watch her all the time.
Okay, so here we go. I've got my little spiral finally working. Sometimes it takes a minute for me to get these started. I'm going to let this just kind of sit up and dry a minute. You could leave it like this if you wanted to have a clean edge, but I like more dimension and texture, so I'm going to let this sit a moment, let it dry. And then I'm going to glue a base to it and then paint the edges and curl them back. You can do some curling now with your fingers. And on one of the flowers, I really tore the edges a lot, and I really liked that effect because it was very soft. So now you have more of a flat rose that's kind of looks like it's opening out. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry up, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've let this sit up a little bit, and I have prepared a base of cardboard with my little assistant's hand helping, and there's a lot of glue on that just to hold everything in place. And so I'm going to put this down, the flower, right onto it. Okay, you can move your hand back, thank you. Now I'm just going to kind of twist to make sure that everything's the way I want it to be. And then I'm going to take some paint, and I'm going to paint the edges of the flower. This is Shimmer's paint. This color is called Bubblegum. And it's just a really pretty glittery pink. And one thing that the paint will do, it kind of it holds the edges of it gives the paper like a little more texture, but it also softens it so you're able to curl the edges. Stephanie Ackerman has done some very similar to this, and really liked the effect. So as you can see, I'm just twisting and manipulating the paper, and the glue base that it's on is going to hold everything down for me. And so I think this one is about done, and I'm going to let this just sit up until it's dry, and then I could add it to a project like this one. So you can see my flowers here that have the painted edges, and this one has more of a rough texture. So this is Lucy Edson again for Tally Scrapper this month.